We are constantly being interrupted, right? How many of you are old enough to remember when your phone was attached to the wall and it had a cord, and the only way it can interrupt you is if it rang and you didn't have to answer it while it was ringing? Well, now we carry that around and I get interrupted all day from notifications, you name it. The cops get to interrupt your day too, folks, and it is legal under certain circumstances. The thresholds for how much of an interruption they get to impose on you depend on what they got on you. When we call these concepts what they got on you is a fancy way of saying reasonable suspicion or probable cause. Depending on how much they've got on you will depend on what they get to do to you. So the very lowest threshold here, what we call reasonable suspicion, is this notion that they have enough of a suspicion that you are up to criminal activity to where you're not free to leave. We've talked about this all the time. You've seen my other videos. Am I detained? Am I free to leave? Well, on reasonable suspicion, you're not free to leave, and yes, you are detained. But the cop doesn't get to do much to you when you're detained, right? They get to pat you down for weapons, but they can't search for drugs. A reasonable suspicion, they're going to try to investigate whether they can get enough evidence on you to arrest you, and if they have enough on you, we call that probable cause. It's a level up from reasonable suspicion, and with probable cause, they get to arrest you, they get to put handcuffs on you, they have some solid evidence of criminal activity. Those two concepts, reasonable suspicion and probable cause, will guide the cops in terms of, do I get to search and arrest this person, or do I just get to detain them, maybe pat them down for weapons for my safety while I figure things out? I can give you some examples of this. It happens a lot in DUIs. I think DUIs are the best example. And when a cop sees you stumbling out of a bar and getting into your car and driving and weaving a little, does the officer have probable cause to arrest you for DUI? No. You could have a hurt knee, you could have a bad ankle, you could be stumbling and weaving a little just because of your injury. Recently, earlier this year, I had a second-time DUI client, and he was arrested for DUI, and he had surgery, massive ankle and knee surgery. I can't even pronounce the names of what happened to him. We got that DUI thrown out because we showed that there was not probable cause to arrest my client for DUI. They had reasonable suspicion, absolutely, given how he stumbled a little bit while he walked to the car and all that, but they didn't have probable cause, never should have arrested him, DUI thrown out. However, let's say that our hypothetical person that's limping, staggering to their car, weaves a little on their car, the officer does get to pull that person over. That's reasonable suspicion of a DUI, but not probable cause, because there's no evidence of alcohol. There's no evidence of any sort of impairment. At that point, there's just injury and bad driving, but the window comes down, right? The window comes down and the puff of alcohol, what we call the impurities of alcohol, cop smells it, sees the open container, maybe. We can add that fact if you want. Now the officer has probable cause to actually make an arrest for DUI. So you can see how those two things are working together in order to get the officer to the point of where either, hey, I gotta let you go, I had reasonable suspicion to stop you, turns out your leg's injured and you just weaved a little, sorry to bother you, here's your weaving ticket, get out of here. Or, you were stumbling and weaving and I smell alcohol. Now I have probable cause, not just reasonable suspicion. I'm putting the handcuffs on. You got to go see somebody like Guidry to defend your DUI. That's the difference between reasonable suspicion and probable cause. I hope you learned something today. I hope you stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.